Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this talk. Limited audience, but all very important people, I assume. We want to talk about the mutual benefits of governments adopting Drupal for their websites. The benefits of Drupal are probably well known, but there's many more benefits that are not often very clear, and we are here to discuss them and to show you how that works and how a government can unlock them. Are you in the audience developers or non-developers? Can the developers raise their hands? 1, 2, 3. You're not audience. Any decision makers who are in a position to decide which software to use for? Yes? Anyone working for a government? No government employees. Okay, we're going to talk about governments. A little introduction of us. My name is Thijs Boots. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm the co-founder of a digital agency called The Savvy Few. I founded together with my partner in 2011. And my specialty is front-end development and design. And I later shifted a bit towards Drupal. So now pretty much all of our clients are Drupal websites. We're doing quite well. That's my background. And this is Akmal.
Hello, good morning. Hi, my name is Akmal Fikri. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm coming from a company called Pocket Pixel. So I've been in the industry, especially in Drupal, since 2010. So it's 14 years now, coming to 15 years. And since day one, I've been involved doing websites for governments, government agencies. In total, I have made around 20 plus government websites, especially in Malaysia. Yep, that's from me.
Maybe a little story about how we ended up here, a Dutchman and a Malaysian on stage in Singapore. I tend to spend my winters in Malaysia whenever I can because Dutch winters are very cold and very snowy and very unpleasant. And Malaysian weather is always very nice. I once did an exchange semester in a university in Malaysia and made a lot of friends. So I ended up coming back every now and then. And one day I figured, hey, I do a lot with Drupal. I'm quite active as a contributor, and I visit. I visit a lot of events. So I was wondering what's going on in Malaysia. So I posted in a Facebook group about Drupal Malaysia, and Akmal responded. And one thing led to another, and we ended up organizing our first meetup in 2022, I think. And ever since, whenever I got back, we would organize something or do something Drupal related. So that's been going on for a few years. And then DrupalCon Asia came back around in Singapore. So we thought, why not do a talk? And that's how we ended up on stage together. Our contact information is on the slide. If you want to reach out, if you have any questions that you don't see answered in our talk, or if we don't have time for a Q&A, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to connect, and we're always happy to meet new people, talk about Drupal, talk about your ideas, just whatever comments you have, please let us know, and we'll talk. Drupal in government websites. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. WordPress is a major competitor for Drupal. And they're always publishing figures about their market share, which is massive for worldwide websites, right? Much to the frustration of the Drupal community. However, if you look at government websites, Drupal market share is huge. There was a study in 2021 that estimated 56% of all government websites is powered by Drupal. So that's more than half. Now that figure might be changing a little bit, but it's still around half, which is of course enormous. And it varies from country to country. So I've picked out a few examples to show you how powerful Drupal is for government websites. For example, in the United States, Drupal is responsible for powering the websites of 57% of small states. That means US states with less than 3 million residents. If you look at mid-sized states, so 3 to 10 million residents, it's 2/3. If we look at the largest US states with inhabitants of more than 10 million, Drupal has 100% market share. That means every US state that has more than 10 million people has Drupal website, which is huge. And we're talking about California, Texas, New York, I have to check my notes here, Florida, of course. They all run on Drupal, so that's pretty amazing. That same study mentioned figures of market shares of cities and counties, and there you see the same pattern, which is the more users a website has to service, the more likely it is that website will run Drupal. So basically, when it comes to scalability and reliability, governments rely on Drupal whenever it matters. So when they have to service a lot of people, when they have to do a lot of transactions, when they have to do a lot of page views, then they will rely on Drupal. And that pattern is visible in many more countries. In Australia, for example, we were just talking to someone who did a wonderful talk on Drupal South with a lot of figures. We didn't have time to put them in on the sheet, but the overall figure in Australia is that Drupal currently powers 29.9% of all government websites, and that figure is actually rising. So it's more than the previous year and more than the year before that. And also, his study shows that the larger the user base of a certain government website, the more likely it is running Drupal. So even in Australia, you see that if the website is important, if it has to manage a lot of traffic, a lot of transactions, it's more likely to be a Drupal website, which is a huge feat and I think a huge sign of quality for Drupal. A lot of national government websites also rely on Drupal. There's India, Australia, France, Germany, South Africa. These are all major companies with a lot of residents, and they all rely on Drupal. So yeah, that's a sign of Drupal being scalable, secure, and just doing what it needs to be done to serve a reliable website. So why? The first three main reasons for choosing Drupal is if you pitch Drupal to clients, you probably know that the most often security, scalability, and flexibility are mentioned. Those are the three factors that I personally also hear most, and that's also the three factors that makes governments choose Drupal. Additional reasons, and these are sometimes rising stars, are cost effectiveness. Well, that's been true for a long time because there's obviously no license cost, it's open source, we all know that. Accessibility is becoming more and more important, and the community behind Drupal is putting a lot of effort in improving accessibility, making sure the features are there, which is of course very important for governments because they want to be able to serve everyone, not just people who are digitally inept and have no problems or disabilities. Multilingual capabilities, also very important, of course, for governments. I mean, Singapore here has multiple languages. All of you being from Asia, you probably know in all of your countries there are like dialects and languages, and you have to be able to get that information to all of your residents. So multilingual is very important. Content and editorial workflow, this is a feature that has seen major improvements over the last few Drupal versions, so that is very exciting. And third-party integrations are also more and more important to be able to connect to other APIs and also to let Drupal be an API for other services is becoming more and more industry standard. The last crucial reason for choosing Drupal is often an overlooked one, and that is the Drupal community. As you can see in DrupalCon here, you've been walking around, you can see already that the Drupal community is a wonderful community. That's what I think, at least. They put in a lot of work, and you can see that when they organize and when they work together, they are able to build a fantastic digital product. And that is pretty obvious to us developers, but not always to the decision makers who have to choose whether they will adopt Drupal. Let me explain how it's more important, how the benefits go beyond Drupal and the community, but also for the governments themselves. Introducing the cycle. This cycle is basically what happens if a government is serious about adopting Drupal and is ready to commit. It starts with a government website, right? Maybe one, maybe two. Once a government chooses to adopt Drupal, it creates business opportunities. There will be agencies, there will be developers that have to build these websites. These projects have to be realized. In turn, these agencies will need Drupal developers. That means job creation for developers, for designers, for project managers. Anyone with expertise is needed at these agencies to realize these government projects. If there's enough people working on this open source platform, namely Drupal, they can organize and form a community and share knowledge and talk about their expertise, present their case studies. Look what I have built. What have you built? How have you solved this problem? I'm doing it like this. Can I use your code? Let's do a conference together and share knowledge and invite new people to learn about Drupal and use it. This is how a community is grown and how it thrives. That community, if organized well, can contribute back to Drupal in terms of solving bugs, building new features, building open source modules that other users can use. In other words, that community is responsible for product innovation, and that is literally improving the quality of Drupal. That Drupal platform isn't used by the government. So the government, by adopting Drupal, by committing to Drupal, is not only getting a very nice digital platform, they're also starting a sequence where that product is innovated and improved constantly every time a government commits. So in that cycle, they end up with a better product without having to do anything, because basically it's the community contributing back to Drupal, making it a better product, and that benefits the government. And if the product is better, the government is more likely to commit more and more. So the cycle continues. This may sound a bit theoretical and a bit far-fetched, but it's already happening. And here's an example. The UK has a working example of the cycle I just illustrated. It's called LocalGov Drupal. and it's basically aimed at giving UK councils, which is a regional form of government, the means to create a website that works and against a fraction of the cost. And it didn't, it took some time to came about and come into practice, because it started with a simple idea of about 3 or 4 people, 2 of which were working for the government, and one of them had to build a council website for Brighton. And after that, another council wanted to build a website, also Drupal, and then one of these guys thought, wait a second, can't we just use the code base for the first council and then use it for the second? I mean, why reinvent the wheel the whole time? It will save cost, and the second council can use the first council's code for free, and then if they want new features, in return, the second council can give the features to the first council. So both councils share the cost of development, and they both end up with a better product. So they experimented, and after they did 2 councils with the same code base, they pitched the idea to the central government and said, look, this is what we can do, this is the result, it works as long as everybody commits. And yeah, that works. Central government was very enthusiastic about the idea, and they actually pledged to fund the project, to professionalize it, to improve the code base so that more councils could use it. And one thing led to another, and currently the result is that the same code base is in use by 53 councils, and they are serviced by 16 different agencies who all do their part. And the estimated cost reduction of creating a new council website is up to 80%. So that is a huge cost benefit for any council that wants to use it, and in turn for the central government of the UK. And because all these councils are choosing Drupal, there's a huge community, not only for Drupal, but also specifically for this initiative. And they even have their own conference, they have their own Slack groups, they have their own website. So this is an example of how this can work and how it can benefit governments, developers, and also the people visiting the council websites, because they end up looking at a great website. If you want to read more about this initiative, you can find it on localgovdrupal.org. I can share you the URL later, it's not on the sheet. Next question is, can this idea, this cycle, this working example that is already in place in the UK, can it be applied to other countries? Specifically, can it be applied to an Asian country? We have a candidate in mind.
That's where I come in. All right. Okay. So before we go into that, so I had like these numbers that came out from the research that I made. So in Malaysia, there's a total of 1,500 plus total government agencies websites that are kind of like connected to each other, federal and state-based combined. In 2012, not really recent, but it's quite recent, the 188 local councils moved from Liferay to Drupal 7. So there were actually like kind of like an exodus of local council websites moving on from Liferay into Drupal 7. There's a lot of companies benefited from that, and also there's a small community also started during that. A total of around 600 members of the community was created. And then right now, as of 2024, 60% to 70% of them are still on Drupal 7. They even haven't moved, not even one version up. The remaining are either already moved to Drupal 8 Plus or changed into WordPress or Joomla. Next one. Okay, so why Malaysia is the perfect candidate? Okay, so they already have the experience, which is they already use Drupal since 2012. and some of them before that. And then they also have the urgency where many Drupal government websites are still running older versions of Drupal, where Drupal 7s are, well, as what Gabor said, still, yes or no, still alive, but still it's getting, have EOL on January 2025. And then standard. We can say that all of the government agencies in Malaysia have the same content structure. You have like almost the same sitemap going throughout the all of the government websites. And the design also is kind of like there's a resurgence of user experience and also the accessibility awareness throughout the whole Malaysia ecosystem. Okay, next. All right, so there are some challenges that we want to fix before we want to do this. Some of them, these are the main 5 challenges that we're going to tackle. Most of the Malaysia government agencies working in silos, so once they already like created their own websites, they'll just keep it from themselves. So they don't really share between the agencies what have been done and what they are looking for, whether they want to innovate. And vendors, not many Drupal service providers in Malaysia, especially in backend development and Drupal specific DevOps. They are more, because since there are a lot of WordPress websites, so they are more focused on that compared to Drupal. I can assure you that it's even less than my hand right now, how many vendors in Malaysia right now is doing Drupal specific stuff. Reluctance, central government are not committed enough in open source environments and communities. They are kind of like better off pay the license fees and those kind of stuff than like more biased, and then they actually lean on paying more except from then getting the benefits of open source. And one of the other big reasons is the security. Hosting the websites must be hosted in Malaysia, which is a bit one of the really downside of one of the challenges. And also trust as well. Taxpayers often struggle to trust the government ability to manage public funds effectively and transparently, because every time they heard about like these big projects and this kind of stuff, they suddenly think that, oh yeah, probably a waste of money. Next one. So these are the recommendations that we are actually want to do before we want to tackle, want to do the same initiative as the UK one. So collaboration will be the first one, which is we're going to pitch to the Ministry of Digital. Malaysia have its own ministry, digital ministry, to spearhead the web team. We will we'll propose like what GovCMS Australia did, so that the government itself was actually have their own team, and then they started the initiative. Invite nearby service providers, since Malaysia have like really, I think 4 or 5 major Drupal service providers. So we want to invite Amazy, or probably Amazy.io, or probably Pixel Onion from Singapore to join the service panel. Invite government agencies to open source events like DrupalCon. So we actually tried to invite, but they didn't reply. So we kind of hoping that the next one, the next DrupalCon will be like the one that they're gonna come. Invite hosting providers to open a data center in Malaysia. GCP, Google Cloud Service, and also AWS are opening Malaysia region next year. AWS is almost here. Is almost in Malaysia, and GCP is almost finished their service center. And then the government can leverage open source software and eliminate expensive licensing fees. So probably most of them kind of like gonna basically like knowledge transferring between us and also the government of Malaysia. That's it.
That's also the end of our talk. So we are at almost exactly 25 minutes, so well done. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. And if not, again, this is where you can reach us. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or? Well, perfect talk, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.